Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into a high-stakes technological race, a race where the winner could quite literally hold the keys to the entire world's secrets and dictate how the next century unfolds.
Now, I know that sounds like something out of a James Bond movie, but it's not science fiction. It's the very real promise of a new kind of technology. And the world's two biggest superpowers, the US and China, are in an all-out sprint to build it first.
The source material calls this a dimensionality reduction strike. But let's put that in simple terms. Imagine everyone is fighting with swords, and you suddenly invent the atomic bomb. It's a game changer on that level. Whoever gets this switch first could lock in their global leadership for the next 50 years. So let's get into what that really means.
Okay, so what would winning this quantum race actually look like? Believe me, it goes way beyond just breaking a few secret codes.
Think about it for a second. Every password, every bank vault, every single classified government document, suddenly wide open. But it's not just about breaking things. It's also about building. This machine could design revolutionary new medicines or create materials we can't even dream of today. And it's pretty much the last piece of the puzzle needed to create true artificial intelligence. The stakes just couldn't be higher.
So let's look at the American strategy. How is the US tackling this? Well, they're placing a huge bet on a familiar face, a real titan of the tech industry.
You see, for years, building these quantum components was like crafting a fine watch by hand. It was slow, delicate, and done one at a time in a pristine lab. But Intel said, we can do this differently. They're using the exact same kind of factories that have been pumping out computer chips for decades to mass-produce quantum chips like they're printing newspapers.
And here's the result, and it is absolutely mind-blowing. Their Tunnel Falls quantum chip has a 95% success rate. That means almost every single chip that comes off the line works perfectly. In the quantum world, where failure is the norm, that number is revolutionary. It's really the only way you can even imagine building a machine with the millions of quantum bits you'd need to win this race.
So what does China do? They're blocked from getting some of that advanced manufacturing tech, so they can't compete head-to-head on that front. Well, they've decided to play an entirely different game. Since China can't use the same fancy machines as Intel, their strategy isn't to make a better chip. Instead, they focus on something called total landed cost. They're looking at the entire price tag, from the raw materials all the way to the finished product, to find an advantage.
And this is where it gets really clever. If you just look at that initial high-tech manufacturing step, China's at a huge disadvantage. Their process is less efficient, maybe even 3 times more expensive than what Intel is doing. At first glance, it looks like they're losing. But that's just chapter 1.
Because here's the counterpunch. When you look at the day-to-day costs to actually run the factories, China has a massive upper hand. Their industrial electricity is dramatically cheaper, maybe 3 to 5 times cheaper than in the West. And their highly skilled engineers cost a whole lot less too.
So when you do all the math, you see their strategy. Those huge savings on power and labor almost completely wipe out their initial disadvantage. The final cost for their chip might only be about 20% higher. They're trying to turn these technological crown jewels into something they can afford to make by the thousands.
If you're finding this explainer interesting, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. It really does help us create more content just like this. Okay, so we have 2 very different strategies. But it turns out both sides share a secret and, frankly, enormous vulnerability. And that brings us to the hidden catch in this whole race. It turns out building one of these world-changing machines comes with an absolutely shocking price tag. And I'm not talking about money, I'm talking about power.
According to the estimates, a single full-scale quantum computer, one that's actually reliable enough to do all these amazing things, could use up to 200 megawatts of electricity.
Just let that sink in for a moment. You'd need all the power required for a small city to run one single computer. This is a colossal problem. It's a potential deal-breaker for both the United States and China. How on earth could either country possibly power and sustain a machine like that?
This incredible shared weakness leads us to the most surprising twist in this whole story. It's a potential solution so radical that former President Trump was reportedly very interested in it.
I know it sounds like something straight out of a thriller novel, but the source material we're looking at proposes a wild solution. Forget Silicon Valley, forget Shanghai. The answer is Greenland. So why Greenland? Well, it brilliantly solves the 2 biggest problems in one go. First, the freezing cold Arctic air acts as a natural coolant, which saves a ton of energy.
Second, the melting glaciers provide a nearly unlimited source of clean hydropower. And finally, its remote location makes it the perfect secure fortress to house what is essentially a new kind of superweapon.
And there's this really powerful quote from the source that frames this whole idea. It suggests this isn't just a technical fix. It's a vision to use Greenland's natural resources to reboot America's entire industrial and technological engine for the 21st century.
And that leaves us with a truly fascinating question to end on. After all this incredible science, this geopolitical maneuvering, could it be that the race for the machine of the future won't be won in a lab, but on the frozen frontiers of our own planet?